Hi, I'm Francesca. Welcome to another Rialto Channel podcast. So today I am delighted to be joined by Canadian filmmaker Jason Sanchez. Now, after releasing his debut feature called Aloha in 2017, which was written and co-directed along with his brother Carlos Sanchez, the Sanchez brothers found themselves on numerous filmmakers to watch and Best Canadian Films of the Year lists. And I imagine that felt pretty good. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great start with your debut feature film. You must have been thrilled with the feedback.
Yeah, very happy to have been to numerous festivals around the world. We were well received wherever we went. It's all new to us, the post filmmaking world. So we were kind of learning as we went, So any place we ended up was always a great pleasure for us to be there. And the reception for people who got the film, because it's a difficult film, and those who responded to it, really understood what we were trying to go for. So it was. So I'm happy with the reception it's got from the people who've been understanding it.
And it's interesting you mention, the journey after you've completed the film and it's being released, because here you are, we're really excited to be screening on Rialto Channel and you're still talking about it. It just never ends, does it?
That's fine by me. Happy to talk about it as long as anybody wants to talk about it with me, Absolutely.
It can be pretty nerve-wracking releasing your baby out into the world, can't it? Especially when it's your first feature film.
Yeah. You kind of, you're hoping for the best. In your mind, you've created something that you feel everybody should see and that everybody should respond to and understand. But the reality of it is some people do, some people don't. So you kind of have to take it all in and just accept what's handed to you and that's it. That's part of the process. But we've had some great opportunities, and we've shown it in some great places. And I'm proud of it. At the end of the day, we're both proud of what we accomplished, and as is the team and the actors. So we're happy.
Mm. So tell our listeners a little bit about Aloha and where the idea came from.
Well, initially, it's a long answer, but initially we began writing a film with a male lead. Which is, let's say, like 6 years ago. Yeah, so like 6 years ago we began writing a film based on and inspired by these cases that were coming out of Europe, Austria, and Natasha Kampusch, Joseph Fritzl, things like that, where there was abductions and imprisonments of younger females over the span of many, many years. And we were really interested in understanding, after these kids managed to escape, the lucky ones, and you begin to hear their stories, you begin to learn that over the course of the years they had sometimes chances to escape, chances to pick up a phone and call somebody, chances to scream, yet they didn't take them. And decided instead to remain with their captor. So within those stories, we were really fascinated by this idea of this invisible leash. How is such a thing formed, under what, these extreme circumstances? Some people call it Stockholm Syndrome or whatever, but essentially it's this psychological bond that keeps you with your aggressor, based on affinity and fear and all these things. So we were really interested in making a film, and we wrote a film but just on the relationship between the captor and the victim. So it didn't involve the parents, it didn't involve any police activity, anything like that. And that's originally the film that got financed after many, many years of trying to get financing for the film in Quebec and Canada. And throughout the year, it seemed every year that we would be continuously writing it, a new film would come out at a film festival kind of on the same topic. So there's been a few films over the years that have come out while we were writing kind of on the same topic. And Room, I think, was the last one that came out.
I was just thinking of Room, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of like there's a few European ones that were kind of under the radar, but Room was this kind of American, rendition. It was a hit. And so when we got the money and, we finally started casting for it, we really weren't getting the caliber actor for the male lead that we were looking for. And towards the bottom of our list in kind of not crisis mode, but just like, what the hell are we going to do? We were having a conversation with our casting director. And she just said, have you guys ever thought of changing the lead to a female? Because I think I'd have a lot easier time selling that role. And it was kind of one of those eureka moments where you're like, holy shit, I think that's the film. Not only because it was this, interesting take on it, but because we as writers had been struggling with having a male lead, because we were interested in really the emotional, psychological side. And we'd been battling with, when you have a male lead, with it comes this very, physical, domineering aspect to the relationship that we were trying to get away from. We wanted to highlight the unseen things that go into these relationships. So, long story short, we asked our financiers and our producers if we could put the entire process on hold for a year to give us the time to rewrite a new script with a female at the helm, and everybody was on board and supportive. So we basically took a little less than a year, and we rewrote a film that then became Allure.
Isn't it fabulous how collaborative filmmaking can be, that it was a conversation that you have with a casting director that helps you, overcome a hurdle that you're going through.
Absolutely.
But what a great idea, because interestingly, when you see Evan Rachel Wood in this film, you feel like it was written for her. She is so utterly convincing. So it's really interesting to hear, that wasn't the original idea. How soon, as you started rewriting this, when did she come along in the process?
Evan came pretty late. I mean, we were already in pre-production on the film.
Right.
We were already getting people going, getting the ball rolling, because we shot in Montreal, and in Montreal the winters begin in December, and the snow can come in December, even November, and we didn't want, even though there is some snow that comes in at the end of the film, which is fine for the story, it kind of wraps it up nicely, but we couldn't have a film that was just set in a winter. We didn't want it to have that temporal time constraint, that this is just something that happened in the winter or in a very winter-bound location. So we had a time constraint in that we needed to shoot before winter. So once we got financing and the script was in a good place, we just started pre-production, and we didn't have a lead actor set yet, and we had somebody else initially who fell through, and then Evan came through. I think our initial meeting with Evan was probably a month before we started shooting.
Right. Okay.
So it was all very last minute. It all kind of came swooping together.
Yeah. Don't you love filmmaking?
Yeah, I know. You got to be crazy. You got to be completely crazy.
So when she walked,
when it works, it works.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So she walks on set and it just clicked, because she does a beautiful job as well with Julia Sarah Stone, who I think holds her own really well as the younger character, Eva.
Well, she, we met Evan initially, like in San Francisco. She was there, so we went and met her just to talk about it. She had read it, she was interested, and obviously, we're guys that hadn't done anything in the film world yet, so she didn't know who we were or what we were about, so we had an initial meeting that went well. She responded to the script on many levels, and then we had two two actresses for the Eva role that we were considering, Julia and another girl that we took to Nashville where Evan lives to do like a chemistry test. So in order to help us decide who to go with, we brought both of them to kind of run some scenes with Evan at her house. And Julia kind of rose to the top by far, and we knew it needed to be Julia. And then, so that kind of created a good little base. And then, Evan and Julia were in town before the shoot for a couple of weeks. We did some rehearsal stuff, and then we shot. But they were both, very prepared on their end. They did whatever they needed to do. And, on set, my brother and I were just really finessing and just guiding their work. But it wasn't like they were never far off. You know? They were never far from the mark when it came down to shooting a scene.
And how do you and Carlos work together on set? Do you sort of both have slightly separate roles? You look after different things, or do you just kind of cover everything off together?
Yeah, we don't have separate roles. On set it's very fluid. We direct commercials, so we have some set experience. So we've learned to confer with each other as much as we can before going to speak to either the actors or the crew or whatever. But we have our hands in everything, and we did photography for almost a decade before getting into film. It was kind of the same thing. Our roles are very overlapping. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and we've been working together for a long time, so it works. So we've, obviously it happens where we'd go give absolutely opposing directions to people, but it's bound to happen. But overall, overall,
it works nicely. Okay. And it's actually quite nice, as you're saying, making a film is a pretty overwhelming experience, and it's actually just nice to have someone else there with you, supporting you, taking responsibility as well.
Absolutely, it certainly helps. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, and as you mentioned, you two both have, you're both photographers, and you direct commercials and things. I'm interested in that the film had a beautiful visual style to it, and I'm wondering if the themes informed that visual style, or whether that is potentially a style that's come from your photography and things.
Yeah, I think the aesthetic is just an aesthetic that we have within us. I think it's our photo work. If I look at our photo work, I can see how that aesthetic translated into the film. I think we're very concerned with lighting and composition, and it's just part of the way we think in image making and storytelling. Commercials less, I would say more, are more the aesthetic that we've developed in photography translated into the film. I mean, Sarah Mishera, who's the DP, also began as a photographer. So the three of us were kind of a very strongly connected force on set. We had, as most people tend to do, create like a Bible of images and references for scenes and stuff. And we were always, very much on the same page. And it was a really inspiring and productive time together that we had. So, I think it's. Sorry, go ahead.
It's very enjoyable. I really enjoyed watching the films because you could just see how deliberate each shot was, how much care and attention to detail had gone into it, and I just really appreciated that. A little bit the same like watching Evan Rachel Wood. There is never a moment where you're not entranced by what she does. And that's sort of the feeling that I got from Aloha. I just felt like, for a debut feature film, so much attention had gone into just absolutely everything.
Yeah, I guess that's the way we work, I guess having worked in photo for so long, creating stories in one frame, the attention to detail and the conciseness needed. I think that's just in us now, and I think that's just become the way we work, being as specific as we can, with the time that we have, because it's certainly not endless amounts of time that you have on set.
Never enough. So going from
Enough.
photography to commercials onto a film set where you have slightly longer than a commercial, but never enough time. Was that stressful, walking onto a film set?
At times, when you're confronted with things that aren't working, or with weather that's not cooperating, or with we rewrote the ending of the film midway through the shoot, because the ending we had written just wasn't it wasn't justifying enough of Laura's character and the way in which Evan was playing the character. There was so much, the pain was so palpable, and real. And I don't think in the script it wasn't as present, I think.
Right.
I think what she brought was a lot more of the pain and the trauma of the character, and the ending that we initially had written just wasn't matching and wasn't satisfying. So it's stressful when you're like, I'm shooting that ending scene in 2 days, and I know what we have doesn't work, but I still don't know what to write to make the ending work, and eventually it finally came out and it worked, in my opinion. But moments like that are
I can imagine. Yeah, I imagine. And just going back to what you were talking about not having enough time to shoot. How long did you take to shoot? Sorry.
We had 25 days.
25 days,
which is reasonable. It's completely reasonable.
But I wonder if that worked for you, because there is this wonderful intensity in all the scenes and all the characters. It's almost like everybody is walking on eggshells at all times. And I wonder if, because you are trying to do a certain amount in a short period of time, it just naturally lends, that intensity to the characters. I wonder if that helped.
For sure, it helped maintain that. There's no moment where there was enough downtime to lose any of that intensity and energy, and the one of the jobs as a director is to keep everybody inspired and on board. So in that time frame, you're not only trying to get what you need, but you're trying to get out of everyone 110% and trying to get everybody on board, willing to work as hard as they possibly can to get this thing done. So I think those short windows allow for that type of intensity to be maintained, Like, I wouldn't have said no to a couple of days, but we certainly didn't need 50 days to shoot the film. No.
So are you and Carlos keen to keep working together and keep making movies?
That's the idea.
Great.
If we can get some more money to make some more movies, that's what we'd be very happy to do, as long as we can, As long as we have stories to tell, hopefully we can tell them.
Fantastic. Well, we can't wait to see what you guys come up with next. Hey, thanks so much for talking to me today, Jason. And you can catch Aloha on Rialto Channel on July 27th at 8:30 p.m.